Um, re- reached a bit of a bit of a not not writer's block. It's like I don't know really, like the YouTube video making equivalent of writer's block, whatever that is. But I really want to make a video, but sort of motivations. So I thought I'm going to sit down. I mean, I've got certain things I want to talk about, I want to do, I guess I'm going to sit down and just bloody talk. This is a continuation of my films, what I've been watching recently. I think it might be slightly problematic because a lot of these I've watched quite a while ago, and I'm not sure I can remember what they're like. But and I've got my little I've got my waggling pen, and I've got my drink. I did have a hat, but no, I didn't think that was a bit overkill. So when I run out of things to say, I'll just waggle my pen and sort of scratch it on my head, or take a drink or something like that. Give me an opportunity to collect my thoughts. But yeah, as far as these film videos go, I've never really been sort of totally I've never had much of a grasp on what my proper aim is. Excuse me. Let's try that. Oh, bloody sun now. That's a bit better. I've never had much of a grasp on what might. So there's a tree directly opposite me. It's glinting in my eye. Bad idea. Put it back to where it was. Yeah, I've never had much of a grasp on what my proper aim is in these videos because when I first started making videos, I used to sort of talk about films I'd seen, and basically wanted to keep it positive, to talk about films I really enjoyed, and to encourage other people to go and see them, and not so much in like a review sense, but more of I really enjoyed this. Maybe you might want to go and watch it as well, and then to create some sort of common ground rather than like this being like reviews, because I'm no great authority on films. That's for sure. I like certain types, and I know what I like, and sort of maybe the sort of aim is I don't really know. Like I said, I haven't had much of a grasp on it, but maybe the aim is to sort of find common ground with people, maybe suggest the film they might like, and they go out and watch it and they enjoy it, and then we can be sort of lifelong friends forevermore, or just on the pure basis of this one film that I suggested. But that's wishful thinking, I don't know. But it's also pretty much because I know I'm sort of well aware that I'm no great authority on films, because I just sort of like certain types. And also, if there are reviews, and no doubt I'm going to end up watching some properly shit ones. I generally tend to watch films that I know I'm going to like, or if I don't necessarily know I'm going to like them, they've got to be free. So there's no gamble, so I can be purely subjective. But this is what a lot of these are actually. So yeah. So basically, I don't really know what the aim is, so I'm just going to sit and talk about some films I've watched, but totally not in a review capacity. I've got to keep that in mind. These are not reviews. It's just me just sort of letting off steam about films I've watched and liked or not liked. I think recently on Freeview, because generally I don't have Sky or anything like that, I just have Freeview because I'm cheap. They've made available the horror channel, so there's been some probably like cheap nasty horror films I've been watching. The sort of films that you see in like Asda. If you go to Asda's DVD section, they always have a selection of sort of cheap nasty knockoff horror films, generally about zombies, or or there might be like the Gladiator knockoffs, or when I say knockoffs, I mean like clones, like cheap, nasty ones, or Lord of the Rings. What was it I saw recently? The Rise of the Fellowship in Tesco's. I thought, what a really lame title. The Rise, that makes it sound something dramatic, but then the Fellowship, it doesn't really work. But anyway, yeah, a lot of these are sort of cheap, nasty horror films that I've sort of watched. I might as well dive right in. The first one of those cheap, nasty horror films from, they might be that cheap and nasty. I won't even be able to get any, like, in my last video where I was putting up like posters. I'm not sure they'll even be available, because the first one is called Inhuman Resources. It was on the Horror Channel, and I'm not going to say too much about them. I don't really want to. I thought the less I say, the better. See if I can, although sort of focus slightly. Let's, don't know. Again, maybe slightly wishful thinking. Inhuman Resources. Obviously, someone's had an idea of writing a horror film based around working in an office. Try to write some sort of narrative about the horrors of office work, and it was what was the plot? There's a serial killer going around, and this guy gets wrongly convicted of being a serial killer. And I think he comes out and having spent time in prison, it sends him mad, and he becomes a proper serial killer. And he kidnaps all these people. That's it. Yeah, I think has he escaped from prison? I can't remember. I too tend to do this. I tend to miss the beginning of films. I don't always know this exact setup. But he's kidnapped these people and he's holding them in this room. And he's basically set them a task of proving his innocence. So I'm guessing he must have escaped from prison. Because if you're suspected of being a serial killer, you don't generally get bailed. Yeah. So, yeah, and one by one, he's got all these different characters, all sort of chained up to this desk, and if he pisses them off, he sort of puts a tally mark in their forehead with this weird knife he's got, and but it's properly cheap and nasty. But weirdly enjoyable. I did actually enjoy it. I mean, it's got quite a decent sense of humour. At one point, that sort of the heroine, so to speak, is fighting off a villain with a severed leg. That's always funny. I'm sure I've seen it recently, but I think there's another one actually. They use exactly the same idea, actually sort of defending themselves with a severed leg. But something about severed legs are really funny. In the film Severance, there's a severed leg in that, and that's hilarious. But in Human Resources, it's really corny. Especially the main character, or the main villain, his acting. It doesn't help he's wearing a wig, and it's part of the plot. It's not like a sort of just a sort of cheap film prop. This is actually part of the plot. The fact that the character wears a wig for some reason. I can't remember why, but and it just makes it look even cornier than it already is. The fact he's got this bad wig on, and it's not done totally seriously. It's sort of, I suppose, sort of torture porn in that sort of sense. In that, I suppose torture porn that the Saw films would have been the sort of the precursor of, or the very first, or Saw or Hostel, those sorts of films, and it follows that same sort of trajectory. But it's really corny, and it's sort of done for laughs. Probably because it's that corny that if you do something for laughs, you can almost like hedge your bets. If you're not totally committed to creating something generally terrifying if you do it for laughs. But it's not bad. It's not the worst one of these at all. The second one, so that was in Human Resources. Like I said, I'll put up if I can find some footage. Actually, I've just been told how to take and sort of grab some footage. I might do that. Or like a poster if I can find one. But the second film is The Cube 2. Now, I wanted to watch this because I really enjoyed The Cube. I've seen The Cube twice now. The first time I saw it, it was one Christmas Eve, and it sort of I don't know. It sort of had this weird association from that point on. Me and Christmas. No, it wasn't Christmas Eve. It was Christmas night, and for some reason I got weirdly Christmassy every time I thought about the film The Cube, even though it's the least Christmassy film ever. But I saw it again recently, and it's just as good. It holds up really well. It's brilliant. Just low budget, but really well done. But the sequel, similar premise, but it sort of puts a slightly more. It's like a time travel twist on it. I mean, the original Cube is basically just a cube. Just a section of sort of like a maze, like a labyrinth of cubes. Certain ones have like certain traps in them, things like that, and these characters have to escape, and they don't know why they're there. And the premise is very similar in the Cube 2. It's not an exact continuation, I don't think. It's not a continuation of the original film, because it's the original one had a sort of certain purity to it. It was quite a basic idea, and it was easy to spit on the screen, easy to understand. This one adds time travel, and time travel is like a bastard for complicating things, isn't it? To make things confusing. And whereas in the first film, the characters would go from one cube to the other to try and find their way out, and there were certain codes so that give them clues to the route, or what the purpose, or the setup, the main sort of setup of the complex. Whereas in the Cube 2, it's more of a sort of a time travel thing. There's there's like time portals within from cube to cube, and it's like they're experimentations, and it loses something in that sense because it sort of complicates the idea, but it still has it sort of goes. It's almost a bit more. I don't know, a bit more sort of conceptual, a bit more highbrow. It's a bit weird. I mean, it's not as good as the first film. Like I said, the first film's strength is its simplicity, even though sort of these codes are sort of based around sort of complicated mathematics, whereas in the Cube 2, certain people in there are they're physicists and things like that, and because each room or certain rooms have different sort of parts of different timelines, and they're intersecting timelines, and they open the doors between the two, and they look into a different timeline and things like that, and there's all these sort of crossing plot lines and things like that. And then you see other universes, it's alternate universes, and that's bound to confuse things, and it does, but doesn't confuse things to the point where it's it's to its detriment that much. But I just prefer the first film, even though the Cube, I would say the Cube 2 is good. I mean, it's just as articulate as the second one. The script's just as good. I mean, acting, there's a couple of, I mean, they're almost like the characters are very similar. There's a similar sort of range of characters, all these sort of disparate people who don't really know why they're there, and they get put in this place, and they have to find their way out. But yeah, so it's not bad. I mean, Inhuman Resources and Cube 2, of the two, Inhuman Resources is cheap and nasty. Sort of never wouldn't even have made it sort of within sort of smelling distance of the cinema. Smelling distance, is that even a thing? Spitting distance. Smelling distance. I'm sure there is a metaphor in there somewhere, but I'm confused. Number 3, Resident Evil Afterlife. I mean, I don't actually mind sort of the Resident Evil films. I think I rented the first one. I don't think I quite enjoyed. At least I think I did. I wasn't really concentrating that much. I quite enjoyed the one where there's a big band of people, and like a convoy, and they're all really good at fighting and killing zombies. I quite like that one. I can't remember which one that was. But this one I saw recently is Resident Evil Afterlife. And yeah, it's I don't sort of dislike them, but you can't really. They're not brilliant films. I mean, Resident Evil Afterlife obviously it's sort of still flogging the whole sort of stylized sort of Matrix combat horse. However many years later, I think it was from like 2000, don't know, 12 or 11 or something like that, and sort of a good sort of 15 years after the Matrix, it's still doing it. They're still doing the sort of the bullet time sort of graphics and things like that. Jesus, move on, but it's not unenjoyable. I just like generally like zombie films. I mean, they all have their sort of merits, because I like the idea of look, there's almost sort of no end to a zombie film. It's almost like a cop out if they do come up with a cure. I mean, how often does a zombie film come up with a cure? And I like the fact that then rarely they'll have an end, and so they have to sort of explain their way out of a sort of situation. But and Resident Evil Afterlife is no different. I mean, it sort of continues on afterwards. I doubt the sort of series is going to end with some sort of great cure for the world. But it's yeah. I mean, actually, I mean, I did sort of quite like it. It's an interesting cast of characters. Obviously, with Mila Jovovich as the central character, and it sort of reuses some of the old. I've forgotten who they have. They have Wesker. He comes up back as some sort of weird superhuman villain, and sort of Jill Valentine. She's in it, and is it Jill Valentine? I always could get confused with who's who. It's the brother and the sister. Redfield. They're in it. I'm sure they're in it. Are they in it? I don't know. It's not that bad. I can't really say much about it. So I'm not gonna. Resident Evil Afterlife. Yeah, I mean it's. I did quite like the first film. It has. Does it have running zombies? That's always sort of, I don't know. I never liked that evolution of the genre running zombies, because it makes things too easy. I like the complications of having slow zombies, because it's a different sort of horror. You don't have, there's less chance of a jump scare, and jump scares are cheap and nasty scares when it comes to horror films, and that's probably one of the reasons why they had to have running zombies. But I suppose it moves things on quicker if you have running zombies, like in 28 Days Later. But yeah, so Resident Evil Afterlife is not bad. I can't really remember too much about it. Like I said, I probably should have done this a bit closer to when I'd watched them. But the next 1, 2, 3, 4 are all zombie films. Excuse me. All zombie films, all films that I've watched. So I've got my little. All films I've watched from on Horror Channel. So again, or there might have been Spike, because Spike's had a few films on that recently as well. Because Spike's now available for free view cheapos like myself, cheapskates. So yeah, have a look at Spike as well. Some of these might have been on there, don't they? But what are they? Survival of the Dead. Survival of the Dead was one that it was a George Romero film. I had no idea. It sort of went under the radar. Written and directed. I think it's written and directed. It was definitely directed by George Romero. So that generally has a certain level of quality to it, even though when it comes to sort of production values, that's never his concern, is it? Or acting, really. Production values are acting, not like the sort of the proper, the standard Hollywood mark of quality. I think his emphasis is in other places. Remains. World of the Dead, Zombie Diaries. That was a British one, and Dance of the Dead. What shall I go with first? Survival of the Dead. George Romero. Yeah. Like I said, it's sort of a bit under the radar. A weird setup. It's almost like the. It's. warring Irish clans somewhere in America. This is a weird setup to begin with. On this island in, I can't remember, somewhere in the northern United States, I think. And there's two families, and it's during the zombie apocalypse, and they fight over how to deal with the zombies. One of them wants to kill them off, the other one wants to keep them in the hope of a cure. And for some reason, it begins with one of these old men. He's going to kill the daughter of another one who's actually already a zombie. And him and his cohorts are stopped from killing this zombie and then banished from the island. This old man's banished. It's a bit of a weird setup. I don't. When it comes to the Romero films, there's always like a subtext, and it wasn't immediately obvious with this one. I've not figured it out, but obviously with everybody knows Dawn of the Dead is, or the sort of the Night of the Living Dead is about the human rights campaigns, and Dawn of the Dead is about like our relationship with commerce and industry and shopping. And I think there was Day of the Dead was about vivisection, I think, but Survival of the Dead. Was it Diary of the Dead was about? I can't remember what that was about, but Survival of the Dead is a weird one, but it has the hallmarks. It has the interesting characters and the dialogue, and the storylines of a Romero film, and there has sort of certain like elements of quality that you recognise. But it's still it almost sort of the the production values are sort of reined back from. I always forget which one's which. The one with Dennis Hopper in it, and the big it's like a big sort of zombie tank bus thing. What was that one? I can't remember. But all of the acting and the production values have all been sort of reined in from there. But this I can't even remember what. I do remember what it's like, but I can't even remember what I want to say about it. But no, it has that sort of George Romero seal of quality, and it's just a bit of an odd setup and a bit of an odd tone. I mean, it's sort of humourless. Everybody seems to be very relaxed about the situation. I mean, compare it to something as oppressive and dour as The Walking Dead, and some little Herberts on their BMXs. Yeah, compare it to something as sort of dour and depressing as The Walking Dead, and it's incomparable. So, it's a bit jolly in places. Everybody seems quite relaxed. But Survival of the Dead. That's actually not that bad. I would recommend it. Although I'm not imagining these readily available. These films. It's a shit one. Actually, none of them are that bad. The two duffers, Remains and World of the Dead, Zombie Diaries. Remains is just the sort of the standard one. There's some sort of explosion involving some sort of weapon or power source, some sort of newly designed power source. I can't remember, and it creates this sort of it turns sort of the majority of the population to zombies. I think it's in Reno. Is it Reno or yeah, I'm sure it's Reno. Like Las Vegas. It's not Las Vegas, but it's that sort of city, and it's generally it's got some good. Who's it got in it? It's got the guy who plays what's his name? He's in The Wire. He basically plays the boss in The Wire. It's not Lester Freeman. It's the other guy. Can't remember. What's his name? Sort of the slightly the skinnier bloke, sort of taller, bald, but he's in it, and Yeah, it's another one of the sort of cheap, nasty, sort of straight to video films. There might be a few actors you recognise in it. I think they're from from American TV, things like that. Um, it's again weirdly sort of done for laughs in places. A bit sort of there's lots of quipping, decent quips actually. I mean that's a sign of a well made film. Quality of quips. And yeah, it's cheap and nasty, but some of the quipping's pretty good. And a couple of decent jokes as well. There's a nice joke with the smart car as well. I don't have to give it away. No, I won't. But you know, that did make me laugh, and that was a surprise in itself. The smart car. I mean, when it comes to zombie films, you don't really have to. A lot of them don't really take much explaining because the plots are generally the same. And then this is basically, I mean, Resident Evil Afterlife is they're in I think it's what was it, a prison? Is it a prison? And yeah, surrounded by zombies, they're holed up in a prison. Whereas in Remains, they're holed up in a casino. They basically barricade the doors and to sort of live in a casino. It's just but Remains is a bit of a duffer really generally, but having said there's a sign of quality is good quipping. It's got good quipping and a decent joke with a smart car, but the proper turkey of the four. It's slightly unfortunate, really. I mean, Zombie Diaries. It's World of the Dead Zombie Diaries. I think Zombie Diaries. That annoys me because it's basically just the justification. Let's call it Zombie Diaries. Justification for using handheld cameras. One of the characters has got a camera of this and they're all recording the situation sort of as it happens. And I don't, as far as this film concerned, it wasn't really ever justified. It's just a way of shooting, and for some reason they tried. Again, I probably missed that bit when they. Although it's probably like a throwaway comment to justify the fact that one of these characters is taking a camera with them wherever they go. But I think one of the problems with that is the film's got a very narrow scope. I mean, zombie films, I think they benefit from being sort of wide and epic, and no matter it doesn't matter what the budget is, they need to sort of demonstrate some sort of element that this is sort of a worldwide thing. Or this, the scale is bigger than what's happening to the actual characters. And with a World of the Dead, even though it's called World of the Dead, you don't never really get that sense because everything's through the viewfinder of this camera, and it's all very controlled. You don't ever really get a good close up of the zombies. There's zombie combat, because it's basically soldiers. It's a British film. They're all Brits. And they're soldiers, and sort of their camp gets overrun with zombies, and they have to. I think they decide that they've got a plan. They don't really know where they're going. They're going to the beach or something. They're going to Rotterdam because apparently it's the situation is basically confined to the UK, or so they've heard. It's just there's some nice imagery actually, some nice. Quite spooky imagery using these, like certain sort of silhouettes of zombies as they're coming. Everything's very dark and sort of enclosed, and I don't know. It's there's certain irritants like there's some of the dialogue. The acting is pretty bad generally, but some of the dialogue, because they're soldiers, there's all this military, uber military dialogue. Like they keep talking, oh, we're bugging out. Sorry, someone's about to deliver a paper. Going to walk past my window. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, it's all this sort of there's loads of people about today. They're distracting me. There's always sort of like military terminology, like we're bugging out. We've got to bug out. As in get out of here. Other things. Lay down some fire. What else? But bugging out was the one that sticks in my mind. But just generally, it was annoying because it was too, it was overused and it was too obvious. It wasn't subtle enough. But it's called Zombie Diaries, and it's generally a bit irritating. I mean, nice, and there was certain tension to it. In the, it looked quite nice in places, but I just wish they'd sort of opened it out slightly, and you know, you'd seen some actual, zombie combat. Or you basically a lot of the fighting is just sort of muzzle flare from gunfire in the dark, and you see some vague zombies like hobbling about, and you never really see them up close. It's slightly claustrophobic in because of the camera, but I don't know. It just no. That was World of the Dead Zombie Diaries. What have we got left? I've forgotten what I've done. Olympus Has Fallen, so it's moving away from the horror. These last two are probably the two highest profile films. Olympus Has Fallen is something I fancied watching in a sort of like the sort of film I'd never pay money for, but I just wanted to be able to watch it for free so that I could be objective about it and have an opinion about it. And generally, I always want to like films like that. I don't go into them like, no, I'm deciding I'm going to dislike them from the off. But Olympus Has Fallen, I just found it just a bit it's the standard under siege Die Hard sort of setup with, although it's more political, so that leaves a bit of a bad taste. And regardless of what anyone says, nothing means nothing. I mean, it's a dumb, stupid film, and in probably that's to its detriment because it uses. It's overtly political, even though it doesn't really have anything to say because it has North Koreans as the villains, which is always a touchy subject. I mean, maybe you shouldn't be using North Koreans as villains if you're not that your message isn't that articulate, and this film doesn't have much of an articulate message at all, and it leaves a certain bad taste in the mouth. I mean, obviously, it's basically North Korean terrorists. Do they exist? I'm not sure they even exist. North Korean terrorists, and they will use. It does tend to use all of the cliches, in the book. North Korean terrorists take over the White House inside like 10 minutes, but which stretches credibility to begin with. And it's just a weird setup because you got what's his Gerard Butler, who plays the main character. He's like the John McClane, character. He's I think he was sort of involved when the president, for some reason, I don't know why, it's not really relevant. For some reason, the president's wife died in an accident. She was in a car that fell off a bridge, and Gerard Butler's character, I suppose it's to give him some sort of story, some sort of weight, give him a reason to be a bit edgy. I don't know, but he let the president's wife die, or he didn't let her die. She died, and he couldn't save her, so he's been put on gardening duty because he's like a Secret Service agent. But he's there to save the day when the Koreans have invaded and killed all the all the Secret Service people and all the soldiers. That just stretches credibility. I mean, to begin with, it sets up the United States as an underdog, and the United States, regardless of whatever any film ever says, the United States will not be an underdog in any situation. Because all the security sort of gets wiped out in like 5 minutes. But then it takes the direction takes a slightly different tack, because once the situation is established and the villains are in place, then it sort of turns on its head, and it almost creates this image of the United States as a police state, because the direction, the cameras go handheld, and shaky, in like documentary style, and it all becomes really efficient. Sort of like the reactions of, or to an extent, is really efficient. I mean, there's the villains are obviously quite well prepared, and they're aware of sort of the weaponry that they can use against sort of like the fight back. So in that sense, sort of the reaction isn't so efficient, but generally it goes all shaky cam, and it creates. It's almost like creates. It's a message almost to any terrorists. This is how we react, and this is our weaponry. Don't even try it, sort of thing. I don't know. I didn't like it at all. And there's always this corny imagery of like a sort of a tattered Stars and Stripes being being taken off the flagpole, and then it sort of drifts down to earth. I mean, how corny is that? It's just awful. It's just bollocks. And I mean, there's no point talking about the plot, 'cause it's basically a Die Hard Under Siege. Die Hard Under Siege is so much better. There's authenticity with Steven Seagal, even though he's a bit of a fat old bastard now, a bit of a weirdo. And apparently he likes, who's he like? He likes Vladimir Putin. He's friends with Vladimir Putin now, I don't know. But anyway, there's some authenticity to Under Siege, and with Die Hard's Die Hard. But this, the central character is just irritating because he's miserable, and they try the quipping again. This is another one. Again, it tries to quip. It's got bad quipping in it. That's a sign of talent, filmmaking talent. Good quips. This is bad quips. The one that sticks in my head is he's on the phone to the main villain, and he goes, this is Gerald Butler with an American accent, and let's play a game of fuck off. You go first. That's fucking awful, isn't it? Let's play a game of fuck off. You go first, and puts the phone down. I bet the guy in the other end was going, "Oh shit, that burned." That it's just, and yeah, I mean it by turns it presents the United States as the underdog, and then it sort of, as a police, becomes this, we're a police state, and that it generates confused, and it's a bit of a conservative flag waver. It's horrible. And then it sort of tries to recreate at the end of the film. It tries to recreate, obviously, because you guess what's going to happen. It tries to recreate sort of the raising of the, that's famous from the Flags of Our Fathers, raising of the American flag to, it's just an horrible conservative. I've forgotten that word again. I'm sure I forgot it last time. Patriotic, that's it. Patriotic flag wave. It's just horrible. And finally, not horrible, although it won't be for everyone. I think this is just a brilliant film. Under the Skin, I, like a twat, made the mistake of getting Amazon Prime by accident. I think for some reason I needed something from Amazon quick. So I didn't want to pay for their expensive postage. So I just thought, oh yeah, I'm going to sign up for Amazon Prime. Then just after the free trial, and I forgot to cancel it. So now I've got Amazon Prime. What a knob! But so yeah, I'm trying to watch as many of their stuff as possible. And the first thing is when I actually figured out what happened, because it took me a good few weeks, maybe even a month. I watched Under the Skin. Under the Skin. Under the Skin. It was Under the Skin. It's to make it clear, I suppose it's like the film Species. If you combine that with combine Species with 2001: A Space Odyssey, with a bit of a Ken Loach social realism aesthetic by Jonathan Glazer, who made Sexy Beast, and so it's got because I think he started out doing adverts, didn't he? He did the that sort of award-winning Guinness advert with the horses on the waves. I think. Don't quote me on that though. Don't quote me on that. My finger. I can't do a finger. Don't quote me on that though. I'm pretty certain he did, but I'm probably wrong. But so he's because he's into, or not into. He started out making adverts. He has a really good eye for sort of creative images, and this is just full of them. It has in areas it's got a sort of 2001 aesthetic. It goes really trippy in places, but there's also it's set in Glasgow. There's also a lot of hidden camera footage using real people, and it's basically Scarlett Johansson plays an alien in Scotland. She drives around in a white van, picking up blokes, and basically luring them through into this sort of netherworld portal where she can consume their. She lives. She survives. They're her life. Her sustenance. These blokes that she lures into this weird netherworld. That's how she that's how she gets food. They're her food. And she's got this character who's silent. Actually, he's a silent character. He's a bit like a sort of Winston Wolfe. He's like a fixer who goes around clearing up after her or getting her everything she needs. He's basically this dude on a bike, and you never really see him up close. You just see him driving around on his bike, doing weird things, and you realise what role he plays sort of quite late on. But yeah, it's groundbreaking. It does. The imagery is quite staggering in places. It shows you something new. It's like I said. It's she drives around, and a lot of the footage is from in real places. It's hidden. They're hidden cameras, so the people on camera don't really know they're being filmed. And I suppose you have to, you have to go around and get all their permissions afterwards. But I like it's because it's called Under the Skin, and basically she's Scarlett Johansson is a. I like that idea because the fact that she's like this uber famous Hollywood character. I mean, it has so many levels because she's the actress herself is that famous. She's barely recognisable. So it works on that level that she's Scarlett Johansson walking through like crowded high streets in Glasgow on a sort of Saturday afternoon, and nobody bats an eyelid. It's quite amazing actually, because she's got dark hair and sort of like cut down to here, and it's just she's totally unrecognisable, and she does a good. It is quite sort of a generic home counties English accent, but it's actually a really good one, and so you wouldn't ever suspect anyone talking to you or anyone walking past would be a Hollywood actor sort of in the midst of making a film, and so I like that extra level there, but it's just it's quite sort of stunning in places, and it's quite ordinary. And I like that sort of juxtaposition between the sort of the ordinary and the sort of the amazing sort of otherworldly imagery. And like I said, there are points when it goes a bit sort of 2001 and goes a bit trippy. The character, because obviously her appearance is not her real appearance, and she keeps, to begin with, she just goes through this process of luring all these young men into this netherworld, and then she consumes in that. But I won't actually give away how she does it, but you'll have to see it to watch it because it's just really well done. It's really sort of like I said, stunning imagery. But then she I think with her appearance, because it's not her as she knows herself. Obviously, she keeps sort of like catching glimpses of herself in mirrors and in reflections, and it's not her, and it almost sort of. It taps into the idea that she's sort of someone else. She's not actually herself, and she starts to question why she does what she's doing, and and on certain occasions she basically sort of gives up and then sort of stops what she's doing, and then sort of she tries to go about things another way. You know, she tries to become, because she's got this human guise. She tries sort of the human way of doing things, and it's in that sort of what's it like? I suppose you could compare it to she's sort of she's exploring her humanity, or you know, she wants to become human in that sense, because she doesn't recognise herself, and I suppose it would be like sort of Frankenstein or Pinocchio in that sense. It's like a sort of a need to become human. I'm confusing matters, but it's no, it's pretty amazing actually. So, and there's certain elements to the film which, if I say what they are, there's a whole load of people who go, right, let's go and watch it. If you know the film, you might not already know, but I won't actually say what they are. Just go and watch it anyway, and then you'll realise what certain elements that I was talking about. If that makes sense, just go and watch it, and then you realise there's sort of certain. I'm not going to say perks. That sounds horrible, but anyway, it's Under the Skin. That's Under the Skin. I hope I've spoken about everything I wanted to, but it's nearly 46 minutes. Another long one, but anyway, I'm just going to give up ever talking about making short videos. But I'm going to watch this back and see if it's worth uploading. Hopefully it is. I don't know. Got an itchy foot. Been waggling my pen all the way through. This is my comfort zone, basically. Okay. Yeah, get more people. There's all these people walking past my window. It's a nice evening, I suppose. They're all gone out for a walk. But yeah, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for watching. Probably pick up the video coming up soon. So see you later. Look out for that. Cheers.